When we think about Parliament, most of what we see is just the noise, right? The shouting, the headlines. But what if I told you the most crucial work happens far away from all the cameras? Well, today we're going to pull back the curtain and go looking for the system's silent engine.
All right, so let's kick things off with the Parliament we all think we know, the one that absolutely dominates the news. So just for a second, when I say the word Parliament, what's the very first image that pops into your head? Is it the iconic building, or is it something, well, a lot more chaotic?
Is it just the sound? That wall of noise, with members of Parliament shouting across the floor at each other?
Or maybe it's the constant conflict, those really sharp, clipped arguments that are practically designed to become sound bites.
And let's be honest, a lot of the time it feels like pure political theater, right? Which leads a lot of us to assume that the main chamber is where all the real work, the real scrutiny of our laws is supposed to happen.
But here's the twist. What if that's not actually how the system was designed to work at all? What if the place where the deep, detailed, nitty-gritty examination of policy is supposed to happen is actually hidden from view?
Well, it is. The system was always designed to have a place for that slow, detailed, and kind of unglamorous work. We are talking about parliamentary committees. Yeah, this is the silent engine. Committees are where Parliament is supposed to get away from the cameras and the ticking clock to do the really hard yards. They exist because, let's face it, you just can't properly examine a complex piece of policy in a crowded, noisy room with everyone watching.
And look, these committees aren't some new thing or a little side project. No way. They are an absolutely fundamental part of Parliament's design. They were built on the core idea that real complexity needs time and space to be properly understood.
Okay, so what actually goes on inside these rooms? Let's take a look at how this whole process builds the foundation for real, meaningful scrutiny.
This comparison just nails the difference, doesn't it? In the main chamber, the focus is so often on performance. The currency is the soundbite that's going to get replayed on the news. The goal? Optics. But in a committee, the incentives are totally flipped. The focus is on preparation. The currency is evidence, and the goal is actually getting to a better outcome.
And the process itself is, well, it's methodical. You've got members from different parties reading through mountains of evidence. They question expert witnesses for hours. They deliberate, line by line, through complex proposals long after the headlines have moved on. And then finally, they publish these formal reports with all their findings. It's a process literally designed to replace opinion with evidence.
So here's the bottom line, right? This is the whole point. Committees are where Parliament actually tries to slow down enough to think. It's where some vague line in a new tech bill gets stress-tested by actual engineers who can point out a massive privacy loophole. It's where the real-world impact of a policy gets heard directly from the people it's going to affect, uncovering those unintended consequences before they become law.
Okay, so if this work is so absolutely crucial, why does it feel so invisible? I mean, why aren't we hearing about it all the time?
Well, the honest answer is pretty simple. Committee work is terrible TV. It's meandering and discursive, not neat and clipped. It's super technical, not dramatic. And very often, the most honest conclusion after weeks of research isn't a simple yes or no, but a really nuanced, it depends. And that just doesn't fit neatly into a 24-hour news cycle.
And this brings us to the real tension, the core conflict at the heart of the whole system. We have this part of Parliament that is designed for slow, careful, thoughtful work, but it's stuck inside a political world that just runs on speed and urgency.
I love this quote. It just sums up the entire problem perfectly. The place designed for thinking, the committee, gets squeezed for time, while the place designed for performance, the chamber, just soaks up all the oxygen.
And this dynamic creates some really serious problems. First off, committee recommendations, they aren't actually binding on the government. On top of that, their timelines for looking at incredibly complex new laws can be squeezed to the point of being absurd. And so often, their detailed work is just completely overtaken by fast-moving political events before it can even make a difference.
So what's at stake here? I mean, what really happens when this quiet, super important function of Parliament just gets sidelined or completely ignored? You see, when that scrutiny fails, we're basically forgetting why these committees were even created in the first place. Good law isn't made in a single dramatic moment. It takes iteration. It takes expertise. The shouting in the main chamber was never, ever meant to do all that heavy lifting on its own.
Which leaves us with one last really big question to think about. If these committees are where Parliament's best instincts for detail, for evidence, and for cross-party collaboration actually live, what happens to our laws, our policies, and our democracy when that part of the system is rushed,
under-resourced, or just quietly ignored. But hey, the good news is that none of this stuff is actually secret. It's just not where the spotlight usually lands. If you want to see this work for yourself, the live inquiries, the evidence sessions, the final reports, it is all available to the public. You can go see that silent engine in action.